Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link above to my Patreon page. I'm here with a replay of round 4 of a modern competitive league. Currently sitting at 3-0. I started off beating Teamer Energy with AetherWorks Marvel. Then I beat 5-color humans, and the last round was Bogles, which we miraculously managed to get past with a victory. I won the die roll in round 4, and I'm going to be on the play. This is a very defensive hand, but sometimes, you know, this is going to happen. These are great cards that we run in our deck. Cursecatcher, Spell Pierce, Spreading Seas. It's not a lot of early pressure, but it does a great job on defense, so it's a keep for me. And the opponent kept as well. I'm going to open up with Island into Cursecatcher. Opponent has a Bloodstained Mire and just passes, so maybe Grixis Death Shadow. It's like one of the most popular decks. So I can't play my Spreading Seas here. So I think I'll just attack with Cursecatcher, play a Mutavault, and probably pass the turn with Spell Pierce up. The opponent probably wants to hit lands, so they didn't crack their Bloodstained Mire on my end step. But maybe they did hit their lands, so during their main phase they crack one of the fetch lands, get a basic Swamp. Interesting that they're going for basics here. I guess that they're conserving their life total. It's possible that they're playing like Mardu Pyromancer, in which case they could be going for Blood Moon, which Spell Pierce would be wonderful against. Faithless Looting could still be pointing at Mardu Pyromancer here. So Spell Pierce on the Faithless Looting. And okay, so they're cycling Street Wraith, which means that it is not Mardu Pyromancer, but instead Black-Red Hollow One. They're trying to cycle cards. Edge of Autumn is a kind of janky tech that some of these decks play. I think the consensus is that it's not really that good. They sacrificed a land to cycle this card, which means they've now cycled Street Wraith and Edge of Autumn, which means that if they have a Hollow One in hand, they can play it for 1. And it looks like they do. So they did sack a land in order to get that guy onto the table. It looks to me like Spreading Seas, Hold Up, Spell Pierce is the play here. Get to keep drawing cards, get to keep countering their stuff. And another Spreading Seas looks really nice here. Of course, the opponent's going to start applying pressure. It'd be great if we could hit into an Island Walk Lord at some point. Another basic mountain. Interesting mana base. Gets in with the first Hollow One here. We're definitely not going to chump with Cursecatcher. Goes for Faithless Looting here, and pretty easy target for Spell Pierce. Keep them off of any sort of discard and cycling action. All right, we drew a land. Not the best. I think I'm going to play Spreading Seas using the 2 blue. And if I draw into a Silvergill Adept, I can play it. If I don't, I can just attack with Mutavault. Another land, absolutely not what we wanted to see. I'm kind of flooding out here. But we get to get in for 3. The opponent will be at 12, and we'll be at 12 as well after the opponent's next attack step. So pretty even here. The opponent goes down to 10 for a Blood Crypt. And they go for Goblin Lore. Unfortunately, I can't counter that with Cursecatcher because he does have 3 lands on the table. This pretty much lets him dump any Hollow Ones that he has onto the battlefield. Fortunately, he randomly discarded one of them. Okay, he does have another one in hand, so things getting a little bit scarier on the opponent's side. We can see that Echoing Truth is going to be a really good card out of the sideboard against Hollow One because they have to do a lot of work to even be able to cast these guys. So making them do that work again is pretty awesome. So Harbinger is a blowout. Echoing Truth is a blowout. Going into combat, Flamewake Phoenix triggered, but they can't pay for it because they don't have more red mana. So Spreading Seas is doing a great job. We're going to take 4 more. As I mentioned, we're going to go down to 12. I drew an AEther Vial, so we're just drawing really, really poorly here. All I can do is play a Reejerey and just pass the turn now, basically. Well, actually, I guess we could play the AEther Vial, too. But we have no good attacks. All right, so opponent goes to combat. They get to choose whether they want to bring Flamewake Phoenix in, and they choose not to. So again, we have no blocks here, but I'm starting to think about lethal. People who are not super familiar with Merfolk often don't really know how the math works. If I draw a single Island Walk Lord, it's game over. It's 4, 3, and 3 for 10. So I take 8 going down to 4, and the opponent has a Flameblade Adept to follow up. They tapped out of their only black or red mana to get that guy onto the table. And really, I mean, we're just hoping after drawing 6 lands and an Aether Vial that we hit one of our 8 Island Walk Lords. And we did! Hallelujah! So I just get to play Cavern, cast the Master, might as well tap the Flameblade Adept for fun. Gonna activate Mutavault and represent 10 points of damage to the opponent. So that felt really, really good, hitting the sort of band leader here to rally the troops and get in for 10 points of damage. If I had drawn, if I didn't draw an Island Walk Lord, we would have been pretty hard pressed to get through the next turn. Flameblade Adept has Menace, which requires us to block with 2 creatures. If the opponent has something like a Goblin Lore, discarding 3 cards, this guy's going to be a 4-power creature all on his own, presenting 3 lethal threats. But we got in there for 10, just when we needed to. Game 1 to Merfolk. Look away if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to click out of this window now. Back with Game 2. The opponent will be on the play this time. This is a nice opening hand. I like seeing Aether Vial and Negate. Let me go ahead and show you guys my sideboard strategy here. So I took out all the Reejereys. It was a little bit weird, like picking which cards I wanted to get rid of. We do want access to Island Walk, but we also want a lot of our creatures in the deck. I cut 1 Spreading Seas. This was kind of a grab bag. I took out the Reejereys because these decks play Bolt, and they're certainly going to be bringing in some number of collected brutalities as well. So Reejerey just potentially dying a little too easily to their removal as a 3-drop. So those are easy cuts. I love Cursecatchers because they can counter or at least push back things like Goblin Lore or Burning Inquiry. But I had to make decisions. I love Master Waves in the matchup. He just goes super wide, puts a lot of bodies to throw in front of hollow ones. None of these creatures have trample. It's very easy to kill Flameblade Adepts if you have multiple elementals because their power gets really high, but their toughness always stays really low. So elementals are great in this matchup, but I didn't really want to take out anything. I wanted to keep all my 2-drops. So in the end, I just had to make decisions. I cut 4 Reejereys for the reason I outlined a second ago. 1 Cursecatcher, 2 Master of Waves. This is just a question of prioritizing. So I brought in just 1 Negate to supplement the 2 Spell Pierces that I have. Again, I want to keep my creature density pretty high. I brought in 3 Relic of Progenitus. Not super duper important against the opponent in Game 1, but for Game 2, they bring in Lavamancer, which can single-handedly derail our plan. So Relic is really, really important post-sideboard against Hollow One decks. So let's see, once again, I took out 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, brought in 1 Negate, 3 Relics, 2 Dismembers, and 2 Echoing Truths. I mentioned in Game 1 that Echoing Truth is particularly potent against this deck because they have to do so much work with discard and cycling effects to get their hollow ones onto the table that bouncing them can be a blowout because they might not be able to do that work all over again. So I drew the Singleton Negate in my opening hand. The opponent mulliganed, and that made me that much happier about keeping this sort of borderline hand. It's a little land heavy. Opponent mulliganed to 6, and let's go ahead and see what they did with their scry. And they put it on bottom, so feeling pretty decent about this so far. Swamp Go, I also feel really decent about. Drawing a 4th land, I do not feel decent about. Aether Vial works particularly well with counter magic, as you guys know, so another reason to keep that sort of land heavy hand. Cycling Street Wraith. Looks like the opponent didn't have a second land drop. That was a pretty sketchy mulligan to 6. They did scry to the bottom. It looks like they whiffed on the Street Wraith as well. They must have like a couple hollow ones and a Burning Inquiry or something like that. Inquiry. So missing their land drops, I think it's time to just get, let's see. Okay, so they did hit Wooded Foothills. We decided to pass with Negate up. They went for Burning Inquiry, which I guess I predicted, and left mana up for Negate. Again, AEther Vial lets us comfortably leave that up. Now, the timing on this is pretty awesome, the fact that they missed their turn 2 play, because now, next turn, I can play Kira and Vial in another creature, at which point I can very comfortably discard my hand to Burning Inquiry if they have another one, and then I very happily would draw 3 random cards. The fact that they haven't played a Lavamancer yet is also awesome, because now I can jam Kira. I drew a Mutavault for the turn, which is nice as a body. Let's see what the opponent has here. An untapped Stomping Ground, bolting the Kira, and then what are we going to see here? Collective Brutality, escalating, discarding a Flamewake Phoenix, so that's value. But they are trying to look at my hand. I think they might think that I have another counterspell or something. But we just 2 for 1 them. We got 2 pieces of removal out of their hand to deal with Kira. Always feel good about that. And on the end step, I can bring in a Lord and present 5 points of damage next turn, leaving back Harbinger with AEther Vial as interaction against their potential threats. Harbinger is also obviously great against Lavamancer. Silvergill is a good draw. The opponent saw my hand with the Collective Brutality. He knows I have the Harbinger, so I can just go ahead and cast this Silvergill Adept, revealing the Harbinger, to no sort of ill effect on our side. Another land, at least we get to draw through it. As I mentioned, we get to swing for 5. The opponent's going to go down to 10. They've got 2 cards in hand and no creatures on the table. Flameblade Adept. And let's see, nothing else. So I had a choice there. I could bring in Harbinger and present more damage this turn, but he seems more valuable as interaction. So we're drawing pretty poorly. We flooded out last game as well. I think I'm just going to swing with everybody but the Lord here. I can cast a second AEther Vial if the opponent has... Oh, so let's see. He's actually got some interaction here. He has a Fatal Push, was one of his 2 cards. And Lightning Bolt is the other, hitting the Lord. And then he blocks with the Flameblade Adept. All right. So, opponent effectively Wrath of Godding my board there. But he's got 0 cards in hand. We've got 4 lands and 2 AEther Vials against his 3 lands. He draws and passes, it looks like. I'm going to bring in Harbinger now. We've got 3 more of them in the deck. We've got plenty more interaction that we could draw off the top, and we need a clock. I'm going to leave this on 2 and take the AEther Vial up to 1 here. Keep drawing lands. It's definitely not what we want to see. Play one of them. The opponent goes down to 8. So it looks like, oh my goodness. So here's a Gurmag Angler, which at the beginning of combat triggers Flamewake Phoenix. Really, really strong turn from the opponent. Fortunately, I'm still at 20 life, so not feeling particularly threatened yet. We can take both of these AEther Vials up here. Harbinger is an awesome draw. I'll play out that island, represent weakness, and hopefully bounce the Gurmag Angler. Collective Brutality, not escalated. That means he might have something good in his hand. Otherwise, he might have just drained us or something. All right, getting with both of his creatures. Of course, I get to Vial in the Harbinger. He's not going to get to recast the Gurmag Angler this turn, which means we'll get to poke in with Harbinger next turn. I'm going to take 2 more from the Flamewake Phoenix, comfortably sitting at 16 life. I'm going to take up one of these to 4 and leave the other one at 2. Keep drawing these islands. That's the 7th land. Opponent's down to 6. He's going for Faithless Looting. We see he discards Edge of Autumn and a land. All right, he gets to delve and leave the Faithless Looting in the graveyard. So, Gurmag Angler back. Flamewake Phoenix doing work. Takes me down to 14. Leave the AEther Vials where they are. and hopefully just not draw land again. Island Walk Lord is nice. I think we're going to take a bit of a hit next turn. Opponent just, I guess their best play is flashing back Faithless Looting. They discard a Bloodghast, so that's going to be another threat if he has a land drop to make. Interesting that the opponent didn't get in with Gurmag Angler. I guess they're defending their low life total. I do have a card in hand that I could play out, and we've had a bunch of these Harbingers this game. Maybe we've got them scared. So I am going to vial in the Master, and we just have to hope that we can draw well. I mean, there's relatively few lands left in the deck. And Master of Waves is top deck numero uno. That was an amazing rip right there. Again, getting in with Flamewake Phoenix, leaving back the Gurmag Angler to defend his life total. I decide to bluff AEther Vial here on 2. I don't know what I was expecting. Potentially something like a Kolaghan's Command, trying to kill my Lord before I bring in another Lord. But I didn't have it, and if I don't have the 2, potentially it makes the opponent less likely to respond to it on 4, though again, I don't think they have a lot of potential responses to AEther Vials. I go down to 10, and I get to bring in this Master of Waves. Now, since we're on the end step, the opponent has, I think, virtually no way to deal with Master of Waves at instant speed. They can't trigger Revolt for Fatal Push, so Master of Waves is going to be safe, and bringing 5 tokens to the battlefield means that I've got easy lethal past his Gurmag Angler. All right, so we got there 2-0 against, I guess, black, red, green Hollow One. I think that this deck probably has some Vengevines in it that we just didn't see, further validating bringing in as many Relic of Progenitus as we can. Though remember that my number one reason for bringing in Relic of Progenitus against Hollow One is to defend against Lavamancer post-board. So thanks for watching, guys. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Check out my Patreon page if you haven't yet. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. And tune in for the next video, where I'll be back for the exciting finale, sort of conclusion of this competitive Modern League. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you there. Bye.